An old man, a young maid, and a secret that refused to stay buried. What happens when love crosses the line between the living and the dead? It was a quiet evening in the manor. The sun had dipped behind the western hills, leaving long shadows that crawled across the marble floor. The old master sat alone in the study, his fingers resting on a cup of untouched tea. The scent of jasmine floated in the air. It came from the young maid's hair. She always wore the same fragrance. He could hear her footsteps in the hallway. Careful, almost hesitant. She entered the room, holding a tray of freshly baked bread. Her hands trembled slightly, though she smiled when she met his eyes. "Your supper, sir," she whispered. Her voice was delicate, like a secret being shared with the dark. The master watched her set the tray down. The light from the fireplace danced on her face. Her skin glowed, her eyes reflected the flicker of the flames. Something twisted inside him, a feeling he had buried for years. Desire. Guilt. He was 60. She was barely 17. He cleared his throat, trying to steady his breathing. "Thank you, Anna," he said softly. She nodded but did not move away. The silence between them deepened. Outside, the wind pressed against the old wooden windows, making them groan. A clock ticked loudly, marking every second that passed like a heartbeat. He felt the pulse in his temples. She lowered her gaze, but her lips parted as if to speak. "Sir," she began, "the others talk about us." Her words struck him like a cold blade. He stood abruptly, the chair scraping the floor. "What do they say?" he demanded, his voice rougher than he intended. She looked frightened, but she continued. They say you look at me the way you used to look at Madame before she died." The room seemed to close in. The master's throat went dry. He turned toward the fire, unable to meet her eyes. Madame had died 2 winters ago, a quiet death that left the house hollow. He had thought the loneliness would fade, but it had only grown heavier. Anna had arrived soon after, with her soft manners and quiet smile, and the scent of jasmine that now filled his nights. He tried to speak, but his voice caught in his chest. Anna stepped closer. He could feel the warmth of her body just behind him. Her fingers brushed the edge of his sleeve, a touch so light it might have been imagined. He froze. The clock ticked again. She whispered. "I do not believe what they say, but I feel it too." His breath faltered. He turned slowly, facing her fully now. Her eyes were wide, her face pale except for the faint flush on her cheeks. For a long moment neither spoke. The air between them shimmered with something dangerous. He lifted his hand, hesitant, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. Her breath caught. Then came a sound, sharp and sudden. A floorboard creaked in the hall. Both turned toward the doorway. No one was there. But the tray on the table shook slightly, the silverware rattling. Anna gasped. The master frowned and took a step forward. The hallway stretched long and empty, swallowed by darkness. He felt something shift. The air had grown colder. He could smell damp wood and something else. Something faintly sweet like rotting flowers. He called out, "Who is there?" No answer. Only the low moan of wind through the cracks. Anna clutched his arm. Her fingers were cold as ice. He turned to her, and for a second, he saw a reflection in her eyes. A woman standing behind him, dressed in white, her face pale and dripping with water. The smell of jasmine grew overpowering. His heart lurched. He spun around, but the space behind him was empty. The fire flared suddenly, throwing sparks across the room. Anna screamed. The portrait above the fireplace, Madame's portrait, had begun to move. The painted eyes glistened with moisture. A tear rolled down the canvas cheek. And the faint whisper came again, curling through the smoke and flickering light. "Do you love her the way you loved me?" The master staggered back, clutching his chest. Anna's grip tightened, her nails digging into his skin. "Sir," she whispered, voice trembling. "What is that?" But he could not answer. Because the voice came again, this time from inside the room. Closer. Behind them. Tell me, my dear husband, do you? The master's breath came in sharp, broken gasps. He turned toward the sound. The air shimmered, heat and cold twisting together in a strange dance. The scent of jasmine thickened until it choked him. Anna backed away, her eyes wide with terror. The voice grew clearer now, soft, sorrowful and filled with pain. Why did you bring her here? The flames in the fireplace bent backward as if pulled by invisible hands. The room shook. A porcelain cup fell from the tray and shattered. Anna cried out, pressing herself against the wall. The master could not move. He saw her then, his dead wife, stepping out from the shadows near the portrait. Her gown dripped with water, the hem dark with soil. Her hair clung to her face, her eyes gleamed with something beyond anger. It was grief and betrayal. You promised, she whispered. Her lips did not move, but her voice echoed inside his head. Anna sobbed, her voice breaking. Sir, what is happening? He wanted to protect her, to speak, but no words came. The old master stumbled forward, hand outstretched. Eleanor, he said hoarsely, forgive me. The ghost smiled, not kindly, but with sorrow deep enough to drown in. Her fingers lifted, pale and dripping. The air grew so cold that frost crept along the edges of the mirror. The reflection twisted, showing not the room, but a lake, dark and moonlit. He saw her there, sinking slowly beneath the surface, bubbles rising from her lips. He remembered that night. The storm. The argument. The push that was never meant to be fatal. Her scream swallowed by rain and thunder. Now she stood before him again. Her presence a reminder of every sin he had buried. Anna whispered, "She is her." The master turned toward her, tears blurring his sight. "Yes," he said. "My wife." The ghost took another step forward. The floorboards creaked beneath her weight, though she was no longer of this world. The flame in the hearth turned blue. "Then you shall join me," she murmured. Her eyes fixed on him, not with rage but with finality. The old master's body went rigid. He felt the cold seep into his bones. His heart beat once, then slowed. Anna screamed his name and rushed to his side. His face had gone pale, his lips blue. The ghost reached out again, not to harm but to touch. Her hand brushed Anna's cheek. A strange calm washed over the girl. For an instant, she saw into the ghost's memory. Lake. Betrayal. A hand that slipped, or perhaps let go. The ghost whispered. He loved too late. Then, like mist in sunlight, she vanished. The fire returned to orange, gentle and warm. Anna trembled, cradling the master's head in her lap. His eyes fluttered open. He was alive barely. But something in his gaze had changed. He looked past her, toward the portrait. The eyes in the painting were dry again. No tears. No life. Only paint and silence. He reached for Anna's hand. "Leave this house," he said weakly. "Go before night returns." She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "I will not leave you, sir." But even as she spoke, the wind outside began to rise again. The windows shuddered. The fire dimmed. And somewhere deep within the manor, a door slammed open, though no one had touched it. The scent of jasmine drifted once more through the air. Stronger this time. Almost suffocating. Anna turned toward the doorway. Her voice shook. "Sir, she is not gone." The old master tried to rise, but his strength failed him. The light in the room flickered. A shadow crossed the wall, tall, graceful, and unmistakably female. And from the darkness, that voice returned again. Cold. Unforgiving. "Love me once more, or let her pay the price." Anna's breath caught in her throat. The voice was everywhere now, not from one corner, but from the walls, the ceiling, even the trembling floor beneath her knees. "Love me once more," it whispered again, gentle but piercing like the wind threading through glass. The young maid clutched the old master's hand tighter. His fingers were cold, his skin damp with sweat. Sir, what does she mean? Anna asked, voice barely more than a breath. He turned his head slowly, eyes clouded with fear and regret. Eleanor, she was never meant to return, he murmured. But I brought her back. Anna felt her heart pounding in her ears. The fire behind them flickered, throwing long orange shadows across the study. Each shadow seemed to move slightly out of sync with the light, as if something unseen walked among them. She stood trembling. Brought her back. The master nodded weakly. I could not bear her absence. He looked toward the portrait again, his voice shaking. I thought, if I prayed long enough, if I spoke her name beneath the moon, she might forgive me. He pressed a shaking hand to his chest. But forgiveness never came. Only this. The wind outside howled, rattling the tall windows. A sudden burst of sunlight broke through the clouds, filling the room with a strange, golden brightness. Anna blinked, her eyes stinging from the glare. For a moment, she thought she saw movement within the light. A woman's figure, tall, graceful, draped in white, standing by the window. She was not shadow anymore. She was real. The ghost's face shimmered in the glow, pale and flawless, though her eyes were dark wells of sorrow. Why? The spirit asked softly. Her voice was neither cruel nor kind, only tired, as if it had crossed 1,000 lonely nights to reach them. The master tried to rise, leaning on the edge of the chair. His knees shook under his weight. Eleanor, he gasped, I was lost without you. The spirit tilted her head, the faintest trace of a smile playing on her lips. Lost, she echoed. You found her. Her gaze shifted toward Anna. The girl froze, feeling that cold stare pierce through her like ice. I never meant, the old man began, but the spirit raised her hand, silencing him. You let me drown, she said quietly. The room seemed to shrink around her words. Anna felt her breath falter. The air grew thick, heavy, humming with invisible energy. The master fell to his knees. It was an accident, he whispered. I tried to pull you back. The spirit's eyes glistened. Then why, she asked, did you not dive after me? The question hung in the air like smoke. Anna took a step backward. Her hand brushed against the tea tray, knocking one of the silver spoons onto the floor. It hit with a metallic ring that echoed unnaturally long. When she looked down, her reflection in the spoon was not her own. It was Eleanor's, smiling faintly. Then the reflection blinked. Anna gasped and dropped the spoon. The ghost turned to her again. You remind me of myself, she said. Before love became a curse. Anna tried to speak, but her voice broke apart. She felt warmth trickle down her cheek, a tear she did not remember crying. The master crawled closer to the ghost, desperation in his eyes. Take me instead, he pleaded. Let her go. The spirit's face softened. You still do not understand. She moved closer, her feet barely touching the ground. With each step she took, the light dimmed slightly, as though the sun itself bowed before her sorrow. I do not want your death, she said. I want your truth. The old man lowered his head. Tears fell silently onto the rug. I did love you, he said. I still do. The ghost studied him. Then why her? Anna trembled. The silence stretched long and thin between them. The only sound was the slow crackle of the dying fire. The master lifted his face. His eyes were red, his voice raw. She was light, he said. You were my heart, but she reminded me that I was still alive. The ghost stared at him, expression unreadable. For a moment she looked almost human again. Then her lips parted slightly, and a faint smile, sorrowful, broken, crossed her face. Alive, she repeated softly. While I was sinking beneath the water. The light shifted again, turning colder. The air filled with the scent of the lake, damp reeds, wet earth and decaying leaves. Anna could almost hear the waves slapping against the shore. The ghost stepped closer until she was inches from the master. Her hand reached out, trembling as if she were fighting herself. Then she touched his cheek. Her fingers left frost where they passed. He did not flinch. He closed his eyes. "Then take what you must," he whispered. She leaned forward, her forehead resting against his. A whisper of breath, a faint shimmer of tears that were not hers, and the firelight began to dim. Anna cried out, rushing toward them. "Stop!" she screamed. "Please!" But her voice dissolved in the heavy air. The spirit's lips moved against the old man's ear. Her whisper was soft, but Anna heard it, every word. "I forgive you." Then a blinding burst of light filled the room. Anna shielded her eyes. When she opened them again, the ghost was gone. The portrait on the wall had fallen, its frame cracked down the center. The fire had died completely, leaving only smoke curling into the golden sunlight that still poured through the windows. And the old master lay motionless on the floor. Anna fell beside him, pressing her ear to his chest. A heartbeat, faint but steady. He was alive. Tears of relief fell down her cheeks. But as she leaned back, something made her freeze. The smell. Jasmine. It was faint at first, then stronger, surrounding her, seeping into her skin, her hair, her breath. She turned slowly toward the mirror above the fireplace. Her reflection stared back, pale, trembling and afraid. But behind her reflection stood another woman, smiling. Eleanor. Anna spun around, but there was no one there. The reflection, however, remained. Two women standing together. One living, one dead. The voice returned, soft as a sigh. "Now you understand," it said. Anna's heart pounded. "Understand what?" she whispered. The reflection of the ghost tilted her head. "That love never leaves," she murmured. "It only changes its face." The image faded slowly, leaving Anna staring at herself, eyes wide, breath uneven, hands trembling. She looked down at the master again. He was waking, his eyes fluttering open. But when he saw her face, something in his expression shifted. Confusion, then fear. "Eleanor," he whispered. Anna's blood ran cold. "No," she said, her voice breaking. "It is me, Anna." But the old man kept staring, his hand reaching out to touch her cheek. And in that instant she felt it, a chill that slid beneath her skin, down her spine and into her heart. For a second the room spun. The sunlight blurred. And when she blinked, she was no longer standing. She was looking down. Herself. Her own body, lying beside the master. Ill. Lifeless. The master wept over her, whispering her name again and again. And from somewhere deep inside the silence, Eleanor's voice whispered once more. "Now we are even." The golden light from the window began to fade. The clock ticked softly. The house grew quiet again, peaceful, almost beautiful in the stillness. Outside, the wind carried the scent of jasmine across the hills. And inside the manor, two souls, one living, one lost, sat together in eternal sunlight. Sunlight filtered through the curtains again the next morning. The manor stood silent. Birdsong drifted faintly through the open window, soft, almost hesitant, as if the creatures outside sensed the quiet sorrow within. The old master sat in his chair by the fire, though the hearth had gone cold long ago. His hands rested on his knees, fingers motionless, eyes fixed on the far wall. On the floor beside him lay a single white flower, jasmine, its petals still fresh, glimmering faintly in the light. He bent forward and picked it up. The scent filled his chest, heavy with memory. He whispered the name Anna once, gently, as if the sound itself might call her back. But only silence answered. The house, once warm with footsteps and voices, now echoed with emptiness. He rose slowly, the stiffness of age weighing on him. Each step he took across the rug felt heavier than the last. He paused before the mirror above the fireplace, the same one that had once held Eleanor's reflection. Now it showed only him, an old man with tired eyes. Yet, as the light shifted, two faint figures seemed to shimmer behind his reflection. Eleanor and Anna, standing side by side, both smiling, not with sorrow but peace. He exhaled shakily, a single tear tracing down his cheek. "Rest now," he murmured. "Both of you." The figures faded into the golden light, dissolving like breath on glass. The jasmine slipped from his hand, falling silently to the floor. Outside, the sun rose higher, spilling gold across the garden. The lake beyond the trees glittered with calm ripples, its surface smooth and forgiving. The past, it seemed, had finally settled. The villagers who passed the manor that day spoke of how it looked different, lighter somehow, as if a shadow had lifted from its walls. They said the master was no longer seen after that morning. Only the faint sound of a piano drifting from the study at dusk, playing a tune no one quite recognized. Soft, slow, and filled with longing. And when the wind carried it across the fields, it brought with it the scent of jasmine, eternal and forgiving.